Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. The second guest of the night is somebody that has his own podcast. What's your podcast called again?
I got the Sports Dudes and I got Puck Luck. So, yeah, I got two podcasts.
Right, you have two now. Puck Luck and Sports Dudes. I've been on Sports Dudes twice. I've yet to been on Puck Luck. And this is James Celestin on the line. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. What's going on?
Nothing much, just another day. Coronavirus is obviously the biggest story in the world, not just in sports, but just everywhere. The most notable thing to come out lately was that the NCAA tournament will be being played with empty seats, and then the latest report came out saying that they might move the Final Four. What do you make of the NCAA tournament playing without spectators? Do you think that's weird?
I think that's a really weird dynamic because when I think of the NBA, I think sports bet. What gets people watching sports bet is not just how, but it's the fans, it's the emotion, and playing without that it's weird. Like they're gonna have artificial sound noise. It wouldn't feel authentic. I get why they're doing it, but I feel it. To be honest with you. That's just how I view it.
Yeah, it's just really sad, and you're going to be hearing a lot of basketballs touch the rims, which you really don't hear in a basketball game very often unless there's very little fans. It's just going to be so quiet, and all you're going to be hearing is players running up and down the floor, even the balls hitting the rims, and the broadcaster speaking, and it's sad. I agree with you, but you gotta do what's best for the country. Like, I completely understand why they're doing it, but it is certainly a bummer. We saw the NBA sort of follow suit. The Warriors are banning fans from their arenas, and then there's a report out from Woj saying that the rest of the league might take to it too, or put the league on hiatus. I personally think it's going to be the former rather than the latter. I just think they're going to continue the season, but with empty fans for until further notice. What do you make of the league choosing to possibly do the latter of put the season on hiatus?
I can't ladder. I honestly, it's hard to see the ladder because not only you can affect this year, but you could protect. You could also affect free agency. I don't think the latter happened. I think the former is more likelier to happen, especially with not just what's going on in the NBA, but you look at the NHL. Look what the Columbus Blue Jackets are doing. They're pretty much play in arenas where cities have not been affected. Same with example, MLB has restricted media access, and same with the MLS. So it's gonna be really interesting. But I think it's more I really think it's more the form of what's happening on.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be the former as well. Donald Trump is speaking tonight at 9 o'clock. If you did not hear that, so he'll probably speak a lot on this. So I'm very fascinating what he's gonna say, and obviously the cruise lines and whatnot, and this could very well affect sports too. What Donald Trump says tonight, but we'll follow that certainly on Twitter tonight and throughout tomorrow as well. Off the coronavirus topic, the biggest story in New York sports, other than the whole coronavirus thing, is the Brooklyn Nets, who fired head coach Kenny Atkinson after 3 3/4 of a season. How surprised were you by this move?
I was actually pretty surprised because if you look at Kenny Atkinson, if you look at what the Nets were about 5 years ago, let's think about the Nets had no players, no pick, team was a mess. In comes Kenny Atkinson, helping develop players like Spencer, helping bring in players like Spencer Dinwiddie, developing players like Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and Joe Harris, and that team came together. And then the reclamation project came in and revitalized D'Angelo Russell's career. He went from potential bust in LA to an all-star player in Brooklyn, the team, they made the playoffs last year and gave us Sixers a little run for their money. And and I was a little bit surprised, but then when I thought of Kyrie and KD, that's kind of the perks that you get, especially dealing with a player like Kyrie Irving, who's a bit known. Kind of been known as like a coach killer. He didn't give Mike Brown a chance. He played okay with Ty Lue, but that's because LeBron got the most of him. That he didn't like that guy out of Cleveland. It was difficult to work with Brad Stevens, and from what reports are being said, Kenny Atkinson find it difficult to work with him. Kyrie, as great a player as Kyrie is, he's a bit of an oddball. He kind of beats to the tune of his own thumb. So I'm surprised that they did it, but I'm also kind of not surprised because of who Kyrie Irving is.
Exactly. I think this was a KD Kyrie decision, and they talked the new net owner into doing it. And now, what I am fascinated is what's next for Kenny Atkinson, and I think that the New York Knicks job is perfect match for him because Kenny Atkinson's somebody that's very good at developing young players, like he did with Brooklyn, with Russell, and with LeVert, like you mentioned, and Allen. And I think that he can help do it here with R.J. Barrett and Mitchell Robinson and the young core the Knicks have. What do you make of the idea of Kenny Atkinson being the next head coach of the New York Knicks?
Oh, I would be for it. That is the kind of thing that because the Knicks need to stop this quick fix notion where we're just going to quick fix and then we're going to be. You gotta start. You gotta build your players first before you go to the over the top coach. I think to start, I'm Kenny Atkinson, build R.J. Barrett, build Mitchell Robinson, draft young players, have him develop these young players into something great, and then if he is not the coach to take you over the top, then you bring in the coach to bring it over the top. I think Atkinson, with the way the Knicks are, because you also have to think about this with Kenny Atkinson. The Nets were a mess. They became functional. The Knicks are a bigger mess, primarily because of James Dolan. But if you put Atkinson with the Knicks, he could actually quiet the people telling James Dolan to sell the team, which I still believe he should, and B, more importantly, he can get this team back to playing meaningful basketball and get this team back in the right direction. Atkinson to the Knicks is perfect.
Yes, I really, really think so. And who do you think should replace Atkinson in Brooklyn? That's something that I forgot to ask you.
Ooh, you need a coach to take them over the top. That's going to be a good question. I mean, there are reports saying about Ty Lue. I'm not feeling it. Mark Jackson, I'm not feeling it. I'm going to throw you guys a curveball. I think Jeff Van Gundy would be perfect because he's the guy, and I'll say why. As much as I wouldn't mind Van Gundy to the Knicks, I think Van Gundy is more of a guy where if the team is close to contending or at that championship level, Van Gundy is the guy. I think with the Brooklyn Nets, with KD and Kyrie, two of the top 10 players on the team, once KD is healthy, I think Van Gundy would be the perfect guy to take this team to the next level and possibly win a championship for Brooklyn. I think that's the direction I personally would go for.
That's a good call. I really have no idea who Brooklyn's gonna go with. I personally think if Jeff wanted to get back into coaching in the NBA, I feel like he'd either go to the Houston Rockets because he lives in Houston and he used to coach the Rockets, or the New York Knicks, where he obviously first started and the fans love him. So I think it's either Rockets or Knicks for Van Gundy, and I personally think it's going to be Houston because for the reasons why you mentioned. I have a feeling that Mike D'Antoni is going to get fired from the Rockets if they don't make it to the NBA Finals. He's in the last year of his contract, and I think that Van Gundy is somebody that the Rockets would like to bring in and help them go over the top. You're right about Jeff. I think Jeff's better as like a win now type of coach. And I think that either maybe Ty Lue, although I wouldn't like that fit, or Mark Jackson would go to Brooklyn. And I think that we're going to get the coach we want in Kenny Atkinson. Maybe I'm a little bit of a homer in the Kenny Atkinson call. But personally, my favorite is Jeff Van Gundy, only because I just am a huge fan of him. And he used to coach at the Knicks. And I think the fans would absolutely love the idea of Jeff coming back because of where the Knicks are as a team. I'd bring in Kenny Atkinson and not Jeff Van Gundy. That's just my opinion. Although I'd love the idea of Jeff Van Gundy back with the Knicks. Like I'd sign up for that right now, just like you would. But that should be very
Absolutely,
interesting. I'm very interested to see
absolutely.
who Brooklyn brings in.
Before we move on, I also want to make a quick thing about Kenny Atkinson is that if you look at the Knicks right now, and you know the circus that comes with the Knicks, and James Dolan so petulant and so sensitive when he hears sell the team, I don't want to hear it. You bring in a guy like Kenny Atkinson, and you bring in him, and he would get James Dolan so much of a breather he wouldn't have to be there. Also, I would avoid Thibodeau at all costs. I have nothing against Thibodeau. He's a great coach, but keep in mind that Thibodeau, I really think the game has passed him by. I know Leon Rose is close to Thibodeau. I know Thibodeau really wants that Knicks job because he was assistant under Riley and Van Gundy, and I understand that. But I would avoid Thibodeau at all costs. I know he's a CAA agent. It's like Kenny Atkinson is represented by CAA. But I would avoid Tom Thibodeau at all costs. From Leon Rose, do not let Tom Thibodeau influence you to come back to the Knicks. I would go Kenny Atkinson or Mark Jackson or Jeff Van Gundy as the route for the Knicks. But definitely Kenny Atkinson is the guy. He's my first priority choice. That's the guy I would go with.
I have a feeling it is going to be Kenny Atkinson because of the CAA tie and because I think that the Knicks kind of want to stick it to the Nets a little bit, right? Don't forget about that point. That's another reason why I absolutely love the possible hire of Kenny Atkinson. But you never know. It's the Knicks, and you never know what Brooklyn's going to do either. One more NBA thing before we move on. Do you think that LeBron James has passed Giannis Antetokounmpo as the front runner for the league MVP this year?
I still think Giannis still has the edge primarily because he is the main guy, and I wouldn't call Chris Middleton a top 15 player. But here's where I think LeBron could pass Giannis. Right now, if the Lakers finish tied with the best record in the league, I think LeBron could pass him. I still think that it's Giannis because of, yes, the Bucks are a good team, but because Giannis is the guy and pretty much everyone is just solid role players. And LeBron has AD. I really think that if LeBron I believe if LeBron has the best record in the league, I think he would pass Giannis for league MVP. I still think it's Giannis, but I think LeBron is making the gap a little bit more closer than it was prior.
I disagree with you. I actually think that LeBron is going to win it. I think that the injury to Giannis, he's going to miss some games, and the Bucks have, I think, the one seed in the East wrapped up a little bit. So I think they're going to sit Giannis, and then LeBron's just going to go off and pass him. But if Giannis comes back sooner than expected and the Lakers falter a little bit, then it's still Giannis's to lose. Zach Britton got injured today at Yankees camp, bruised his wrist. X-rays were negative. Did that give you a scare this morning?
That scared because it's the Yankees and we love our Yankees, but let's be real. Every time we hear Yankees and there's injuries, we have to hold our breath. It got me a little bit scared. I'm like, here we go. I guess we're not going to see Britain until June. But luckily the X-rays came negative. I still see an MRI because at the boat, the X-rays may be good, but I'm looking at that MRI. Luckily, we got some good news. And also, John Cole was hitting, and Thompson was throwing. So, hey, we got some good news. So, there's that. So, a little bit positive today, even though it's a lot of negative. We still don't have any update on Judge other than he has to rest for 2 weeks and see what happens. The chances of him making opening day are very, very slim at this point. But at least we got some positive today, and that's kind of the positivity.
Yeah, I do think it's a good sign that Stanton is hitting and Paxton is throwing. I think Giancarlo Stanton will be back before James Paxton. Because just from watching the videos, it just seems like that Stanton is close. And heck, I think there's a chance Stanton is back before Aaron Judge, too.
I agree with that 1,000% because especially with with Judge is rib injuries, and rib injuries, especially if it's a stress fracture, those things take time to heal. And with Judge and Stan are both big athletes, but I think because of the way how Stanton is, and he's already like swinging, and Judge hasn't been swinging, I definitely think Stanton will be back way before Judge.
Yes, I think that Stanton will be back first, and then, oh, that's tough. I'm going to say Paxton. I think that Judge might have a setback, and I think Judge is back third of that trio. So I could be wrong. You never know. But that's just my prediction as of right now. A team that's not looking so good right now is your beloved New York Islanders, who lost yet again last night at the Canucks. Although you got that loser's point, which is pretty big. You need every point you can get because the Rangers are coming fast. And you're battling with Columbus for that last wild card. And you should have an advantage over Columbus, just a little one, because Columbus is missing one of their best players in Seth Jones. We talked about the Islanders and the Rangers a little bit on your show last week, but at the time the Rangers were struggling too, but the Rangers are coming off a big win at Dallas last night and play a shorthanded Colorado team tonight and could get within a tie of the Islanders tonight with the victory against shorthanded Colorado. So, what do you make of the two hockey teams right now?
Well, first things first, the loser point, I agree with that. That's actually pretty funny. So good job with that. Secondly, since hockey has been one of my favorites, and I know they're about the hockey. I'm going to start with the Islanders first.
Go ahead.
The Islanders are struggling. The Islanders have been playing poorly since they won their 17-point streak. They've been primarily because of the injury. Because of injuries, because Zizekas has been out for a while, and he's been like the backbone of our fourth line, which we call our identity line. That's also our checking line. So him missing has hurt us as well. JP Pageau has been as advertised, but again, the chemistry hasn't been as great. And the biggest problem with the Islanders, I am a little bit worried about the goaltending. Varlamov, I'm going to be honest, Varlamov, Greiss hasn't had stellar careers, but obviously my goaltending in the future is in Russia, but that's a different story for a different day. But as for the goaltending has been a little bit shaky, but the biggest problem is the fact that there is no goal scorers for the Islanders. That's the biggest problem. They have not had goal scorers. Barzal gets beaten up every single game, and he's the best player. They don't have consistent goal scoring. I mean, we scored. You would assume without the you would think that it would be enough, but it wasn't. But right now, I do think the Islanders will turn it around. They have 3 games in hand on Columbus, so the Islanders have a better chance of making the playoffs. So I think the Islanders. If you were to ask me today, do the Islanders make the playoffs? I'm going to say yes, but I'm not. But it's not as confident as I was a week ago. As far as the New York Rangers are concerned, keep in mind if the Rangers win this game tonight, even though they would be tied with the Islanders, they would technically be ahead of the Islanders because they have more regulation wins than the Islanders do. So keep that in mind. So, if you're a Ranger fan, that's good news for you. Now, with the way that the Rangers have been playing, I give a lot of credit to Mika Zibanejad. He has stepped his game up tremendously, especially with his 5-goal night against Washington. The Rangers came back a little bit of earth, especially against the Devils, but that was a classic trap game. And a big win against Dallas. You're playing Colorado, who was a bit shorthanded tonight, so that should help. But I think with the Rangers, the thing with the Rangers, and Igor is back, the thing what would make the Rangers short is, Carolina has a game in hand. The Islanders have a game in hand on the Rangers. And I think with the Rangers is, like, Kreider missing, although he is skating right now, that does hurt the Rangers. And the Rangers, I think right now, as if you were to ask me if the Rangers were to make the playoffs right now, I would still say no. But they are coming. They are playing well. They're playing good hockey. Capo has been coming into his own, and I gotta give props to Adam Fox. I mean, Adam Fox right now, I believe he's the first Ranger rookie to have 40 points in the season since Brian Leach Leach, if I'm not mistaken.
Rookie
I'll have to look that up.
defenseman.
But yeah, the first defenseman to have 40 points, yes. But I'm just saying for Ad Fox as defenseman. But Fox has been playing really well, and I really like in that trade, the trade that you guys made with trading away Brady Shea, that's a really nice trade for the Rangers. I mean, Shea has not looked that great in Carolina. He's been taking a lot of penalties, kind of what he's been doing when he was with the Rangers. So
Yep.
I really think that the Rangers have a high trajectory. Whether they make the playoffs or not remains to be seen. They do got a tough schedule. They do got to play Pittsburgh at some point. Pittsburgh is also struggling a bit, so the Rangers have a little bit of a tough schedule coming up too. So, but I do think that when push comes to shove, I think the Islanders and the Carolina Hurricanes will still make the playoffs. I think the Rangers will be on the outside looking in. But again, I'm not as confident as I was right now. Would it surprise me if the Rangers make the playoffs? The way they're playing? No. But again, I'm not as confident. If you were to, the hockey odds have the Islanders at 57% and the Rangers at 37%. So if you were to ask me the odds right now, my personal opinion, I think the Islanders' odds are at maybe 51 and the Rangers are more of a 47. So that's just me.
I think I give the Islanders 60 and the Rangers 40. So I'm like in between you and like that hockey projections website. The biggest story in sports should be the next destination for Tom Brady. We talked about this on your show last week, how I threw the Chargers in as a possible destination after they went out and traded for Trey Turner. Do you think he actually stays in New England, or do you think that Tennessee, the Chargers, or even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are reportedly hot after Brady, have a chance to land him?
I think Brady goes. And the reason why I say Brady goes is the fact that I think Bill Belichick doesn't seem like he wants him back. And I think Bill kind of sees where the league is heading as far as quarterbacks are concerned. And as much love and admiration that New England has for Brady, you got to look towards the future. And the league is no longer drop back stationary passers anymore. It's more of like, it's more mobile quarterbacks. And I think the destination, I definitely see Brady, even though Titans seem perfect because Mike Vrabel and they have a good offensive line. I do think that I would put the Chargers above the Titans for this reason. That Trey Turner trade was really big for them. They still got a lot of weapons. Their defense is pretty good, even though he'll be in the same division as Patrick Mahomes. And also, here's another factor that people are really not talking about. You remember why LeBron originally went to L.A.? For his marketing, his movies, and whatnot. Brady, yep. I think Brady would go to L.A. for his TB12 and his marketing ability. And if you look at how he can extend his TB12 brand, what better place to extend his brand than in L.A.? And especially for Chargers fan base in L.A., which is pretty much non-existent because their fan base is in San Diego, Brady going to L.A. would actually bring in fans because he's still Tom Brady. So I would say the Chargers, then the Titans, and then the Patriots.
That's tough for me. I am leaning towards that he leaves too, but I would put Tennessee ahead of the Chargers because of the Mike Vrabel factor. And then I put the Chargers second with the trade of Trey Turner. I think that improved their chances, like I told you on your show. Then back to New England third. And then I'd put Tampa a very, very, very distant fourth. I actually think that Tampa Bay is a candidate to land Phillip Rivers, although everybody thinks that he's going to the Indianapolis Colts. What do you make of Phillip Rivers' future?
I think Rivers is more likely to go into the Colts. I think I can see Rivers more as a dome quarterback, although Tampa wouldn't be a bad choice because it's a warm weather climate, so just like how the Chargers were. I just see the Colts with how their running game is. Their offensive arm is pretty good. Another young defense. They have some weapons, especially with Ebron and
T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton, thank you. And I think the Colts would be a pretty good for them. And also their running game is pretty good with Marlon Mack. I really think that the Colts would be a more likely destination. Bucks, yeah, he'll have Mike Evans, but I don't know. I mean, I know Bruce Arians is a great quarterback coach, but I could see more Bridgewater heading to Tampa Bay. To be honest with you, I could see Bridgewater heading to Tampa Bay. I can see Rivers heading to. I can see Rivers heading to Indianapolis. But here's the wild card: what happens to Ryan Tannehill if Brady does go to Tennessee? That's the big wild card in there.
You're right. That's a really good call. What happens with Tannehill? That's a good call. I need to think about that because next week I am doing a NFL free agency / offseason predictions podcast. I have a lot of special podcasts obviously coming up with the tournament, and I have that as well. So I have to think about a good Ryan Tannehill prediction in case I keep my Tennessee prediction with Tom Brady. On the other side of that trade for the Chargers and the Panthers, the Trey Turner deal, the Panthers got Russell Okung, who's a good player, but not a great player at this point. Very injury-prone player. And a Twitter follower, Steve Lieberman, who's been a guest on this podcast before, hit me up and said that he thinks that the Panthers are a tank for Trevor candidate. Who do you think right now are the tank for Trevor candidates, or at least a couple? I think the Panthers could become one if they end up trading Christian McCaffrey, which I don't think they will. ESPN threw that out as like in their daring moves thing, but I don't think they'll do that. I think that they're going to keep Christian McCaffrey because if they got rid of him, I think they immediately become the worst team in football. Like, I'm a big fan of Christian McCaffrey, so I really don't think that they're a candidate for tank for Trevor. I threw out a candidate the other day in the Jaguars on Twitter after the trading of AJ Boy, and then they might trade Yannick, so that's a possible candidate, and they could trade Nick Foles. So I'd say the Jaguars right now are my candidate for tank for Trevor. Who would you put with the Jaguars?
I would put right now. I would put the Jaguars as my number one team for Trevor. There's that. And I would also put, if the Lions do not draft a quarterback in this year's draft, I would also put them in the mix for tank for Trevor. Another team to keep your eye on, and I know this is a complete long shot, but if this happens, they have to have an earth to get them. I would say the Minnesota Vikings for this reason only. They're a good team right now, but Kirk Cousins is entering the last year of his deal. And if the Vikings have a mediocre season, because Vikings tend to be either have a great season and they'll be like mediocre or terrible next season, which I don't know why. That's kind of the trend of Minnesota. They're another team that could be in the trend for Trevor, assuming that the Jaguars get the number one pick. They're definitely getting Trevor. But those are like the teams. Those are the teams I could see tank for Trevor. Candidates right now, and I would also look at the Las Vegas Raiders. I keep thinking Oakland.
I know, I'm gonna keep doing it too.
If they bring in Carr back for another year, that's another team I would look at for a tank for Trent candidate. Those are like the teams I would look at because if you look at the landscape of the entire NFL, most teams have their quarterback set. As much as people would like to say New England, I really doubt the Patriots are going to be that bad. As long as Bill Belichick is still coaching the team, the Patriots will never be in a position to have the number one overall pick, ever. So
you're probably right about that, but then again, Greg Popovich landed the number one overall pick, but he lucked out in the lottery, though, let's be honest. With Duncan.
Yeah, that was a pretty fortunate draw for him.
Because everyone comps those two teams and those two coaches, and the Spurs are finally bad this year. They haven't been bad ever, and they're finally bad after trading Kawhi Leonard and a couple of their aging, good players, but aging players finally starting to show their age a little bit and decline. So you never know with the Patriots. I still think they'll be okay, I guess. I just need to see how they do in free agency, what they do at the quarterback position. before I decide
If
on
if you if
where
you
I
were to
stand
guess
on them.
right now, if you were to pick right now before we finish up right now, if assuming Tom Brady leaves, would you put the Bills as the favorite in the AFC East, considering that they're the only other team in the AFC East that made the playoffs? Because I don't trust the Jets because the Jets are usually dumpster fire, and Miami is kind of like, rebuilding.
I would probably pick the Bills to win that division, although I think there's a very slim chance that they might be next year's Chicago Bears, that team that underachieves, big expectations after a surprise playoff appearance, a young quarterback that had a breakthrough year that ends up falling back a little bit. I'm not suggesting that Josh Allen's going to be Mitch Trubisky bad, but I'm just saying, I'm just comparing the two teams. I just won't be like flabbergasted if the Bills went like 8-8 next year rather than 11-5. That's all I'm saying. I'm not suggesting that Josh Allen would be the reason why like Trubisky was in Chicago.
I agree. I agree with that. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Bills kind of had like one of those random years where they fall short of expectations. And if you look at and also with the Bills, they kind of always do that. They give you a tease and then they just fall flat. Kind of what the Bears do too. Bears. It's funny when the Bears made that Super Bowl run back when Rex Wilson was the quarterback, they fell flat on their face the next year. So
Yep.
you're right. I kind of see that happening.
But yeah, but I still think the Bills can win that division. Maybe they kind of don't play as well, but end up 10-6 because the Dolphins are still bad. The Patriots potentially lose Brady, and the Jets are the Jets. Although I think there's a chance the Jets surprise next year if Darnold makes that third year jump, and they make some good free agent pickups. Like I'm not gonna write the Jets off as a possible
Well,
surprise team.
well, we have to see what the Jets do in free agency, and I'm a big fan of Joe Douglas. He helped build that Eagles team that won a championship, so I'm a fan of his. I'm not a fan of Adam Gase, but again, who knows? I mean, he did take the Dolphins to the playoffs at one time, so again, we'll see. The Jets could be, but it's the reason why I wouldn't the Jets. I wouldn't mind the Jets as a surprise team. It's also because we discussed this when you were on my show a couple of weeks back. Like bad teams are bad teams. Dysfunctional teams are dysfunctional teams. Like the Knicks, like the Mets, like the Jets. They'll always find a way to get involved in their own way. That's why.
Yeah, that's not going in the Jets' favor, obviously, either. One more football thing left. There's been a lot of chatter about the Washington Redskins at the number 2 pick and how they might end up taking Tua Tagovailoa or trade down instead of picking Chase Young. As a Giants fan, I hope that happens, but I'm being realistic. I don't think that happens, but the fact that ESPN and all these talk shows keep talking about it makes me think, hey, this might actually be a possibility because why are they keep talking about it? So what do you make of that possible idea?
Well, also as a Giant fan myself as well too, I would love Chase Young to fall in our laps. But if there is, what the old saying is, when there's smoke, there's fire. I do believe that there is some truth to this. But all in all, I think if you have a guy that's projected as one better than the Bolsa brothers, it's very hard for them to pass up, even though Dwayne Haskins has had an underwhelming rookie year. Being granted, he played for a coach that didn't want him. Fun fact: Jay Gruden actually wanted Daniel Jones, honestly. That's the guy that he originally wanted. He didn't want Dwayne Haskins actually. So, fun fact there. I really think when push comes to shove, I would be primarily surprised if the Redskins took Tua Tagovailoa or dropped down, because I personally think that it would kind of be what the Cardinals did a year ago when they drafted Josh Rosen, and then the next year they drafted Kyler Murray. So it would kind of be a slap in the face, and you're kind of just giving up on Dwayne Haskins already, which kind of is very disappointing because I'm not saying Dwayne Haskins was going to be a great quarterback, but to give up on him so early, is a telling sign. A, the organization is dysfunctional because, again, as I discussed, bad teams always find a way to get involved in their own, to mess up in their own way. B, it will kind of show that Haskins was never their guy in the first place. And C, that would mean that Tua Tagovailoa is healthy enough and durable enough to play, and that he would be someone that the Redskins would be interested in. And if that happens, I think it kind of shows you why the Redskins are the Redskins. If you're the Redskins, it's a no-brainer. Take Chase Young and you go and you just deal with it. If you decide to be cute and trade down or take Tua Tagovailoa, then that means you're as dysfunctional as I thought you are.
Yeah, exactly. And as Giants fans, we're secretly hoping for that. Although I think that the Redskins will take Chase Young.
Madison, if that happens, we should be throwing a party if Redskins are that dumb.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one last thing, guess where I'm flying out to tomorrow?
Who?
I'm flying out to Tampa tomorrow.
Oh, look at you! Oh, yeah, I was in Tampa last month. Have a good time actually. Enjoy Tampa.
I'll be going to 2 games.
Very nice. Enjoy the spring training games. Have fun. Make sure you take plenty of pictures, and hopefully you'll see some of the guys working. I think Gary should be back ready by Friday because he was sent home because he has the flu. Not the corona, but he has the flu.
Yeah.
But yeah. But have fun. Enjoy. I'm glad I'm able to was one of your guests down to Tampa, and I'm honored, and have a great time.
Thank you. Yeah, 2 Yankee spring training games. Friday night against the Tigers. That one's on yes. And then Saturday afternoon at home against Joe Girardi and the Phillies. The return of Didi Gregorius. Too bad that one's not on yes. I wonder if the Nets are playing. Or no, I saw the guide. It was NYCFC that has that spot on yes. That's why that game's not going to be on TV. That's unfortunate because it's Girardi and Didi back. But that Tigers game's going to be on yes. And hopefully Michael Kay calls it. That'd be kind of fun, me running into Michael Kay in Florida. I've obviously met him at past functions in the past for the Michael Kay show and seen him at the stadium a few times for games. But not talked to him at the stadium. I've seen him a few times, but I've talked to him at the Michael Kay show stuff. But it'd be kind of fun if I bumped into him at spring training. So that's something that I'm certainly looking forward to. So it was fun to have you on today, and I'll have you on very soon, maybe before the baseball season, so we could do predictions and stuff.
Absolutely. I hope to have you on my show so that we can talk more about the NCAA tournament and give our predictions for both the NHL and the NBA playoffs. So it'll be hopeful to catch up that. I got 2 podcasts. I got Puck Luck, and I got the Sports Dude. And I hope to have you on when you come back from vacation so we can talk more about predictions of the playoffs, which is very, very.
Absolutely. All right. Have a good night.
You too.